G'day you beautiful people and welcome to a winter wonderland here in Slovenia. I'm interrupting the series I'm currently running on this channel about traveling all around this beautiful country called Slovenia, showcasing the beauty and diversity through the fall season. But this is what you can expect, beautiful snowy landscapes after that series is finished. But why am I interrupting that series? Well, in my social media and on this channel, I want to bring more of a behind the scenes feel and sort of the back end of my life and show you what I do to get the photos, and that is what we're talking about on today's lesson, the Viltrox 56mm 1.4. So on today's lesson, I'm going to go and take some landscape images, some lifestyle images, and at the end of this lesson, I'm going to show you exactly how you can get all the images that I'm taking on today's lesson, the comparison images versus the 16-55, and these lenses to download for 100% free if you are interested in buying this lens. That is the least I can do. So let's get right into this snowy landscape and find out how good this lens really is. Alrighty, I think I figured out my little issue. I've explored this place for about an hour and a half now, and I wanted those lifestyle image shots. I can be traveling, get those shots really quickly. That's why I wanted the 56mm 1.4. I know my issue now, it's a bloody tripod. I always use tripod to capture my images, but now, snap it off, capture those images. That's where I want to bring it down because I wanted a lens that I can use, rugged, smash around and capture those images. That's why I look towards the Viltrox. It's a lot cheaper. £299, $329 or 349 euros. That is cheap as anything, but what do you get for that price? Very impressed. The build quality out of this lens is supreme. Autofocus in a very budget lens. Can touch a little bit more on the autofocus a little bit later, but everything is metal. Even the lens hood is metal, so I can use, abuse, and capture those images that I already want. That's what I got today. I got a subject, my girlfriend, walking towards this tree and this lookout here in the deep snow. Now I can just muck around with the aperture, put it up, bang, catch that image. Yes, it hasn't got image stabilizer, but I'm pairing it with the XT4. Image stabilizer built in. Another thing, 290 grams. If you own the Samyang 12mm or have seen the Samyang 12mm, this is smaller. With the lens hood off, that is tiny. Why do I bring that up? Because if you're using just not the XT range, but the XE range and new HS10, this pairs really well because of the size and weight ratio. So now I can just walk around on the lanyard, snap it off, and capture those images that I'm after. Change the aperture up to 5.6. Bang, it is that bloody easy. I think the tripod was my biggest issue, but hopefully this lens is gonna solve some of those issues. Okay, I'm going to be the first one to put my hand up and say that autofocus is not my main cup of tea. In my realm of landscape and travel photography, I shoot 99.9% of my images and video in manual focus. But what I want this lens for, that travel and lifestyle aspect, autofocus is very critical for me. I want to be on the fly, running, gun, and capturing those images. So autofocus is very important. And I must start off by saying this, for under 350 euros, this has bloody autofocus, but how good is it? We had a subject here, a black Labrador dog, and I must start by saying I'm in some of the hardest conditions. There's no contrast, bright white snow, and extremely dark dog to try and focus. So actually now I'm thinking back about this, the results were actually quite pleasing. First of all, I started using single point continuous focus, and I wasn't getting very good results out of that, but one major change in camera to the wide tracking aspect made a world of difference. I went from about a 40% conversion rate to about an 80% conversion rate at 1.4, extremely shallow depth of field. Moving on to the video side of things, it did suffer a little bit more at that 1.4, but it's 1.4. Autofocus was a little bit hit and miss when changing from subject to another subject. Took a little bit of time, but not in photography. So if photography is the main aspect for this lens, for me, using not autofocus that much, I was very, very, very impressed with it, especially in the conditions that I was shooting. Video is a little bit hit and miss, but I always recommend to shoot my video in manual. Get used to that manual flywire and you'll be absolutely fine. So actually, for the price point, autofocus, I was absolutely blown away at how good this was, what this was, especially with these conditions. Is it gonna help me with my lifestyle and travel aspects? Bloody oath it is. So this is the other thing I want to test out is the bokeh or bokeh, however you say it in your language, is the 1.4 to that f2.8 range. Obviously with the 56, we're getting that really super nice compression out of the image. And you know, for me, I don't want it solely for that portrait, which probably what this is more designed for, that portrait style lens. But I want it for that travel lifestyle we spoke about a lot on this vlog. So I want to work at that 1.4 to f2.8, especially in those low light situations, using the in-body image stabilizer. You know, even today, it's pretty low light. There's not a lot happening in the sky. So I want to walk around and capture some images at 1.4 to 2.8, especially using those trees in the background once again to see that separation, if it's cluttered and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to walk around just this little area here and get some images to see how they look at that 1.4 to 2.8, to see if it gives you that sort of juiciness that you want out of that bouquet. But once again, for me, it's not solely about that. This lens is to capture the images. And that's one thing I want to talk about later on in my conclusion. This lens isn't the perfect lens, but it almost is a perfect lens for pretty much anyone out there. I'm going to explain that a little bit later. Okay, so I've made my way to this subject, this tree, isolated, desolate, in the middle of nowhere. And the reason I've come to this tree is, one, it's very beautiful. It's still got some autumn colors, covered in snow. But when we compare lenses or check the sharpness and rendition, trees are always the worst. They show that artificial, in whatever it is inside a lens that doesn't do well in post-production. So that's why I've come to compare it with a 16 to 55. Now, I know the direct comparison is the Fujifilm 56 1.2. Now, I don't own that lens, and I never want to own that lens because this is so much cheaper, the 56 1.4 from Viltrox, and I classify my 16 to 55 as the bag of primes. It is really sharp, and if I want to shoot 27.5mm, I'll bloody shoot 27.5mm. That's why I want to compare at 55mm and then 56mm. Now with the 16 to 55, I'm going through at 2.8, f4, 5.6, 8, 11, and f16. Obviously on the 56 1.4, I'm going to do 1.4 and f2 to chuck in there as well. So I'm going to send you those images for free. It's going to be a link in the description below where you can go ahead and download all these images for free. Just put your name in there, put your email address in, I'll send you back a link to download those images. Now also down below will be a 30-day free trial for Capture One. I have joined the affiliate program for Capture One and I can now offer you guys 30 days free. Why do I bring that up? Capture One is so much better for rendition of Fujifilm RAW files. So if you want to just chuck that 3-day free trial in, get these images, plug them up to Capture One, and you can see the difference you're going to get out of these lenses. Now, I'll be really honest with you, I don't really care about the quality of these lenses. I want to touch on that a little bit later in my conclusion. But now I'm going to go through and get these images, and we're going to talk about the conclusion. Do I recommend this lens? And am I going to keep this lens? So in conclusion, the Viltrox 56mm 1.4. Would I recommend this lens? 100% yes. The build quality, I am so impressed with the build quality. Metal lens hood, very well designed. Even the focus ring is really simple to move. That is really good. There's one negative about the design quality. It's just a little bit of a personal thing. One positive, before I get into that negative, is though, it does have the markings for the aperture. But one little thing that I don't like, getting a little bit nitpicky, but it is a $300 lens, is it doesn't have the clicks between the aperture. That is one thing that I would really like to use, because when I sort of have it to my face there, you have to sort of take it off and you haven't got that clarification of that click, and especially if you're shooting in automatic aperture, it is a little bit easy to knock out. So that's probably one little downfall about it. But remember, it is a $300 lens. The autofocus, as a person that's not solely relying on autofocus a lot, I was extremely impressed by this lens. There's one little other downfall, but that is a personal downfall, is the 56mm focal range. Although it is a fantastic focal range, I do photography and video. That 56mm is just a little bit tight for my personal. If I just want to do photography, this hands down is a fantastic lens, and it is very, very, very enjoyable to use. So for me, that 23mm, 35mm may be suited to my style a little bit better. The 23, especially for the astro work, but this, I really, really enjoyed using this. I was actually supremely surprised, and the image quality, that is for your decision to make up. You can drop below and download the images for 100% free. And that's what I wanted to get into. I said this is the perfect, may not be the perfect lens, but it is the perfect lens for you. And I just want to clarify what I mean by that. I wanted to use this lens. I was really interested in using it and testing it and getting different compositions that I wouldn't normally shoot. It's very similar to what made me switch over to Fujifilm. I just enjoyed using the camera. It's the process, it's the development of your skills that I really, really enjoy. And having that fixed focal range, it's probably a little bit different to what I normally use. I really enjoyed it. So I think the 23mm, 35mm is something I'll definitely invest in later in the time, traveling to Iceland, traveling wherever I go, having that dedicated prime lens that I can chuck around. And that is what I mean. $300, the lens that I can use, I can chuck around, but that's why it is almost the perfect lens for you. It's cheap and it's going to get you the images. It's not like putting the 16-55 on the front and placing it down carefully in the back of the car. I will use and abuse this lens, and I'm going to get the resulting images. So can I recommend it? 100%. Guys, wherever you're from, I'll leave a link in the description below to check out the latest price of this lens in your area. But for me, I can definitely recommend this lens. But let me know in the comments below, would this be any benefit to you? The 23mm, the 35mm, or the 56mm, but Viltrox, hands down, thank you very much for producing very good quality autofocus lens for the budget users out there. I can recommend, but guys, expect this after the autumn series. Drop below, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the deep winter photographing somewhere around Slovenia. Ciao.